Now, it is time for the NBA playoff bracket prediction. Now, I did this a few months ago, and remember, the Heat were hot at one point, and I did say that the Thunder and the Minnesota Timberwolves were not going to reach it to the Western Conference Finals. I said a whole lot of things, and the Celtics were going to make it to the finals and all of these things. I've said a lot. But things have changed, The seeding has changed. Who teams are going to be playing has changed. Now, everything isn't going to be finalized as I'm recording this video. As you see, they're still trying to figure out who's going to be the eighth seed, whether that is the Pelicans or the Kings or the Bulls and the Heat. But by the time this video does come out, they should already have it. But we'll start off with the play-in games. Like I said, the Kings versus the Pelicans. Zion Williamson is not playing, and that is going to be the difference maker for the Pelicans. The Pelicans this season was a failure if you lose. If you lose to the Kings, this season was a failure because you started off at the 3 seed. You were middle of the pack in the West. Zion keeps on getting hurt. You drop all the way down to the 7th seed. You play the Lakers and you lose. Then you're finna play the Kings without Zion, your best player, and y'all finna lose. So it's like it's gonna be a ticking time bomb for Zion. And when you look at the offseason, as bad as it is, you may have to move on from Zion. Probably not this season, but next season, if this same cycle just keeps on happening, you may have to get rid of Zion Williamson. Overall, this season is gonna be a failure. The only way the Pelicans can win is if Brandon Ingram and CJ McCollum ball out. And I'm talking about they got to combine for 60. They got to combine for 60 points in order for them to even have a chance on winning. But the Sacramento Kings, for them to win, obviously, they don't have Malik Monk. They don't have Kevin Huerter. Keegan Murray got to have him a game. De'Aaron Fox got to have him a game. But Sabonis is going to be that difference maker. Sabonis against Valanciunas, I think Sabonis is going to win that matchup. And Sabonis is going to be the difference maker and the win for the Sacramento Kings against the Pelicans to secure that 8th seed and will play the Thunder. So next we'll talk about the Bulls and the Heat. The Heat, since they're at home, I'm giving them the slight edge. But if they were on the road without Jimmy Butler, then personally I would have the Bulls winning. But since the Bulls got to go on the road and play the Heat, I got the Heat winning. Now I'm concerned for the Heat because Jimmy Butler is injured and he's going to be out for weeks. I'm concerned for them against the Celtics. But overall, I personally feel as though the Bulls do have the team, the better players to beat the Heat, but I just feel as though the coaching of Eric Spoelstra and them being at home is going to cause the Heat to win and go play the Celtics in the first round. So now it's going to be the Thunder versus the Kings. The Thunder are a young team. The Thunder are a young team. I get it. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander is balling. Isn't it crazy that Shai Gilgeous-Alexander is averaging 30 points per game on 2-pointers and floaters? Imagine if Shai Gilgeous-Alexander had a 3-ball. If SGA had a 3-ball, oh yeah, his game will be polished. It'll be done for. But he's scoring 30 points per game off of 2-pointers, floaters, mid-range, free throws. That's it. No threes whatsoever. And he's carrying this young team. This is the youngest team to ever be a number 1 seed in the playoffs. He's carrying these boys, and it's crazy. So, personally, the Thunder, they got to keep on relying on SGA. Give it to him early, give it to him often. Give it to J-Dub early and often. Give it to Chet Holmgren, who's been playing good. So, I personally feel as though, even though they're young, I just feel as though them being young and the team that they do have collectively, they can defend well. Chet can defend. Lou Dort can defend. SGA can defend. Jalen Williams, the other one, can defend. They can defend. So I will give them the edge over the Thunder, but it's going, over the Kings, but it's going 6 games. So I got the Thunder in 6. Now, the Mavericks versus the Clippers. Now, this is going to be a matchup. Let me tell y'all. That is going to be a matchup. Obviously, you've seen in previous years, starting from the bubble all the way until, a few years ago, Luka is busting the Clippers' ass every single time. Luka has the Clippers number every single year. They cannot stop him, whether they've had Patrick Beverly on him, whether they've had Markieff Morris on him, whether they've had Paul George on him. Throw as many guys as you want on Luka Doncic. He's busting their ass every single time. Every single time. And now the Mavericks have Kyrie Irving. Now the Mavericks have PJ Washington. Now they got Gafford. Now they got these guys on this team. Luka's averaging 33 points. Kyrie is doing his. So they have a chance on beating the Clippers. Just like with the 76ers last year. This series is finna come again on James Harden. If James Harden does not have him a series, they are going to lose. Because we know that between Paul George and Kawhi Leonard, at least one of them is going to show up. It may be Kawhi, it may be Paul George, but it's more likely going to be Kawhi Leonard. Okay? You need somebody else. You get Harden. Harden didn't want to be where he was at in Philly. You get Harden. You got Russ. I will put Russ in the starting lineup for this series and this series alone because you need that defense. So, if Harden can play good, I'm confident. But when has Harden played good when it mattered most in the playoffs? Paul George got to play good when it matters most in the playoffs. Kawhi is going to do his. Luka is going to bust their ass. Luka is going to get his. I promise you Luka's going to get his. He's scoring 30 every single game. 30 every game. Kyrie's going to be the difference maker in this series, most definitely. Kyrie's going to be the difference maker. If Kyrie can get his, it's going to be tough to defend. Because it's going to be hard to switch against the Mavericks, too, if they get in foul trouble. It's going to be hard. So Luka's going to get his. Kyrie got to get his. If PJ Washington can play too, if PJ Washington can chip in another 20, that'll be good for them. But personally, this series is going to go 7 games. This is going to be the most entertaining series out of the whole Western Conference. It's going to be back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. Luka's going to do his. Kawhi's going to do his. But in order for the Clippers to propel, James Harden has to play. It's been too many series with too many different teams where James Harden doesn't come to play when it matters most. This is the series where he needs to play. This is the series where he needs to play. Same with Russell Westbrook. He has to come and play. But I personally am going to take the Mavericks to upset the Clippers in 7 games. That's going to be a good series. And the Mavericks are hot. Now since they made the playoffs, because remember last year they picked up Kyrie Irving and they didn't make the playoffs. But now they came in hot. They're coming in this playoffs hot with Kyrie Irving. So I personally have the Mavericks beating the Clippers in 7. Now the Timberwolves versus the Suns. Now the Suns are picking it back up. If they could get all 3, Devin Booker, Bradley Beal, and KD to play, I got the Suns personally beating them. Now, I know that the Timberwolves have Anthony Edwards, but I don't think Cat is going to be playing. Cat has to come back. But if Cat isn't coming back, I think he had a meniscus injury. They're not winning. They're not winning. I think the Timberwolves getting the Suns is a tough matchup, and I personally have the Suns beating the Timberwolves. The Suns is either going to go out in the first round. I mean, not the Suns. The Timberwolves are either going to go out in the first round or they're going to go out in the second round. And one or the other, it's going to go 5 games or 6 games. No question about it. But I personally feel as though the Suns have been inconsistent all year. Injuries have killed them with Bradley Beal getting injured. then Devin Booker's not playing, then KD's not playing. They've never really played together. You see, that's been the problem with big threes. Normally with big threes, they don't always play together. You saw it in Brooklyn. You see it now with the Suns. Like, they've never played together. But if Bradley Beal, Devin Booker, and KD can all play together, I feel as though they can beat the Timberwolves. And if they're balling, they got to be balling too. I think that they can beat the Timberwolves in 6. Now, the Nuggets and Lakers, I'm going to just tell you this straight up. It's Nuggets in 5. Nuggets in 5. Now, LeBron, my favorite player. I want them to win so bad. But ain't nobody finna stop Jokic, man. Nobody finna stop Jokic. Nobody finna stop Jamal Murray. And then, who knows? It felt as though every single one of the games in the series last year, somebody will step up. Whether that was Aaron Gordon that'll step up. Whether that was KCP that'll step up. KCP was balling last year. Somebody gonna step up. It's just like they have that front court and backcourt dominance, and the Lakers don't have it. The only way the Lakers can win, like I said, if D'Angelo Russell can play good compared to what he did last year against the Nuggets, then they have a chance. But if he goes back to old D'Lo and he can't find a bucket, he can't buy a bucket, can't do nothing, oh, this is going to be over. Austin Reeves got to play. Rory Hachimura has to play, but we don't got no bench. We don't have no bench. And that's going to be the difference too. So, personally, I have the Nuggets in 5, man. It's hard for LeBron. I don't know if LeBron is going to make it to the NBA Finals again on the Lakers. I just don't see it. It's too many good teams, too many more talented teams that he's going up against in the West versus the East. Now, luckily, he already won a championship. I don't care if it was in a bubble. A championship is still a championship. So there can't be no argument with LeBron saying, oh, he can't win in the West because he has won in the West. But these teams are getting better young guys coming in the league. And I just feel as though the team that is constructed for the LA Lakers, they don't have no chance on beating really any of these teams in the playoffs except for maybe the Thunder. Maybe the Thunder. So, like I said, Nuggets in 5. So, then we'll have the Nuggets and Suns. And then we'll have the Thunder and the Mavericks. Now, that's hard. One thing I will say, any one of these teams, by the way, can make it to the conference finals. That's one thing I will say. But Thunder and Mavericks, I personally have the Thunder getting knocked off by the Mavericks. The Thunder is not making it to the Western Conference Finals. I'm sorry. They're not. Whether they lose to the Clippers or they lose to the Mavericks, they're not making it whatsoever. And I personally feel as though, like I said, the Mavericks are going to beat the Clippers. The Clippers can't overlook the Mavericks. They just can't look at the Thunder. But the Mavericks overall, with the team that they have, they're beating the Thunder in 6. They're beating them in 6. I'm sorry. Then we're going to have the Nuggets and the Suns in a rematch in the second round of the playoffs last year. I got the Nuggets beating them in 6. I think Jamal Murray is going to overall have him a series, and that's going to be the difference maker in the playoffs. So then we're going to move to the East, where we have the Celtics versus the Heat. If Jimmy Butler can come back, I would say otherwise. But right now, it's looking like all Celtics. If the Celtics don't make it to the finals, oh, we have some problems. We have some problems. Some coaching changes have to happen, or Jason Tatum or Jaylen Brown, whoever don't play. Somebody got to go. Because you can't get Porzingis, add them to the team. You find out that you need a third person that can stretch out the floor. You get Porzingis. You have Al Horford. You have Drew Holiday. You have Jason Tatum. You have Jaylen Brown. And you can't make it to a finals. This for the Celtics is NBA finals or bust. Point blank period. Then you have the best record in the league with 64-18. You got to make it. Unless there's going to be some problems. So I have the Heat. I have the Celtics beating the Heat in 5 if Jimmy Butler isn't playing. But if Jimmy Butler is playing, I wouldn't be surprised if it goes 7 games. But I have the Celtics. Now, the Cavaliers versus the Magic. Now, the Magic hasn't been publicized on TV, but the Magic do have a good team with Wagner, Banchero, Suggs. They got a good team. I'm not even going to lie to you. The games that I have watched, they do have a pretty good team. Cole Anthony is also on that team. They got a good team. But the Cavaliers with Darius Garland and Donovan Mitchell, Evan Mobley, Strus, and all of these boys, I just feel as though team as a whole, I think that the Cavaliers will be winning in probably like 6 games. But don't sleep on Paolo Banchero at all. Don't sleep on that team at all. Bucks versus Pacers. Now, the Bucks have had problems this whole entire season ever since they added Doc Rivers to be their new head coach. They've just been having problems. I know Damian Lillard, when he made it to Milwaukee, he was thinking that it was going to be a better team than what it was in Portland, and he was going to have a championship run, and that really just off the regular season alone just hasn't been the case. But I just feel as though since they've been so inconsistent, it's going to be hard for them to reach into a finals. But specifically, the Bucks versus the Pacers, I personally have the Bucks beating the Pacers. I have them blitzing them, actually. I think that's going to go 5. Tyrese Halliburton, I don't think Tyrese Halliburton is really like that when it matters most against these good teams. I don't think he like that. I'm sorry. That's just always been me. Like, he been getting so much, publicity from the All-Star game and all that. But when it matters most, for an example, when they played against the Lakers, when it mattered most, he ain't really do nothing. I think he had 20 and 12, but I'm telling you, it didn't feel as though he was really doing anything when it mattered most. So I feel as though when it matters most, Tyrese Halliburton, he ain't like that for real. Trae Young is like that because he took his team to the Eastern Conference Finals. That's why I personally will say that Trae Young is a better player than Tyrese Halliburton. We'll see how Tyrese Halliburton plays, though. If Tyrese Halliburton can make some noise in this playoff, I may say different. But right now, when it matters most, when Tyrese Halliburton plays against good teams this season, and I'm talking about some good teams, not just the Bucks, not saying that they're not a good team, but they've been mediocre this whole entire season. We're not going to do that. When it matters most against these great teams, he ain't doing that 20-point, 20 assists like he doing against these trash teams. He ain't doing that. So, Tyrese Halliburton, you got to prove me wrong. You got to prove me wrong. I got to really see if you like that when it matters most. But as of right now, I got the Bucks in 5. Knicks versus 76ers. Jalen Brunson is straight up carrying the mess out this team. Even though they do got guys, they got Hart and they got DiVincenzo. They don't got Julius Randle, and that is going to kill them. They don't have him for the whole season. But they end up winning 50 games, and that's really that's good. But I do have the Knicks end up being the 76ers. It's going to be hard for the 76ers to win. They need Tobias Harris and Maxey to really step up and play if they want to have a chance. But I think I have the Knicks winning. So the Knicks and Bucks, should I say, the Celtics and the Cavaliers. I got the Celtics in 5, and then I have the Bucks in 6 against the Knicks, and then the Celtics and the Bucks, I have the Celtics in 6. So that's who I have on that side. Now, for my conference finals, I have the Mavericks and the Nuggets in the Western Conference Finals, and I have the Nuggets winning in 6. So it all comes back down to the Boston Celtics and the defending champs, the Denver Nuggets. Now, the Denver Nuggets, I just feel as though, they're just a great team. Same with the Boston Celtics, but I just feel as though coaching Mike Malone is going to be the difference maker. Mike Malone versus Joe Mazzulla, when it matters most, Mike Malone is going to get them boys over the hump. Most definitely. Going to get them over the hump. Jason Tatum is going to get his, but Jaylen Brown has to play. Jaylen Brown has to play, and Porzingis has to stretch out the floor. But we're really counting on Jaylen Brown. Jason Tatum has the most amount of pressure throughout this whole entire series. The Boston Celtics as a whole have the most amount of pressure throughout this whole entire series because they won 64 games. They have the best record by 7 games. They're up in the Eastern Conference by 14 games. So they've been dominant. They only lost 18 games this whole entire season. So if Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown, if they can't do anything in this playoffs, it's going to look bad for them. It's going to look bad for them. Because you can't have the best record and not do anything. So they're under the most pressure, most definitely. They got to, especially Jaylen Brown. You pay Jaylen Brown this huge contract money, this huge contract deal. I think it was $300 million. A whole lot of money. He has to do it in the playoffs when it matters most. He has to prove that he is worth that much when it comes to the playoffs because he's been disappearing. So, with that in mind, I personally have the Nuggets winning in 6. I think Joker is going to get his. And I just feel like Joker, Aaron Gordon, and I feel like Michael Porter Jr. is going to step up and propel them to victory. So let me know who y'all think is going to win the NBA Finals. Like I said, if the Celtics don't win, it's a bust, and we're going to have some problems depending on how they lose. They can't lose in the first or second round. It's championship or bust. Point blank, period.